Hey everyone, welcome back to Frontrow2020. I'm Ryan Hayward, your host of Frontrow2020, also the CEO and founder of Pitchproof, the community of over 85,000 designers and the business pulling this entire event together. Today, I'm super excited for this session that we've got upcoming. We've got four Aussie legends, four Aussie design legends, I should say. And the reason I'm super excited is not because they're all legends, it's because I'm an Aussie too. So I just want to run through a couple of housekeeping things before we jump into this Q&A panel. We're going to be talking about personal branding today, and I'll introduce you to the panel in just a second. But a couple of housekeeping things. Number one is if you're sharing pictures or videos, make sure you use the hashtag Frontrow2020 and tag us at Pitchproof, whether that be on Twitter or Instagram. We've been sharing already like a couple hundred stories over the past 24 hours of you guys just sending us photos. It's really cool to see, and we want to put them back up on our highlights and things of that nature. So if you haven't done that already, make sure you use the hashtag Frontrow2020. A couple other things, huge thanks to our sponsors, as always, Adobe XD and Holobrief. The links are in the description for them. Without them, this stuff could just not be possible. Also, if you haven't, check out our community Slack channel. That's where everything's going down. You can meet other event attendees. We're pushing live updates there as well as some behind the scenes access. So definitely go check that out. Also, our virtual expo is something new that we're introducing this year. We've got a bunch of different goodies. For example, we've partnered with Adobe this year to actually give you guys the opportunity, and we're giving away one Creative Cloud subscription. So if you're a VIP ticket holder, you can actually enter into the draw for that. And also, if you want to rewatch sessions or you might miss a session because of time zones, for example, I know in Australia here, we've been doing sessions at like 1 a.m. in the morning simply because we want to make it accessible to everyone as possible. So if you miss a session or you want to rewatch a session, the VIP pass actually allows you to do that. You also get access to mentoring sessions and a ton more goodies. All right, let's get into the real reason why we're here. So today we're joined by four Aussie design legends for a live Q&A. We're going to be focusing the conversation about personal branding, but you never know where that might extend to. So let's go through them one at a time. First up, we have Jacob Cass. Jacob is an Aussie brand designer and strategist. Jacob is also the founder of Just Creative. I'm sure some of you guys would have heard that name before. Jacob has also worked with notable clients such as Nike, Disney, Nintendo, and many more. Jacob, can you hear me?
What's up? I can't hear you. Wait.
That's awesome.
Right.
We've accidentally chucked Jeremy on screen.
Yeah, I'm here.
Right.
I'm here.
That's the great thing about doing things live. Things will go wrong. And as we found out in our opening keynote yesterday, some things will go wrong. But that's all right. All right, so next up, we do have Jeremy. Jeremy, you might as well give us a wave now while you're here. Jeremy is
Yo,
a
what up,
designer,
guys?
creating
How's it
online
going?
courses,
What's
creating
cracking?
content, building his YouTube channel, and crafting websites for over 5 years. So we're super excited to have him on board. Up next, we have Michael Wong, aka Mizco, known on the web. He's a co-founder of Raw Studio. He's designed 45 plus funded startups and raised over 250 million in seeds. All right, and then we've got Regan Mackerel, aka Frank, from G'day Frank or G'day Design Life. He's a lighthearted Aussie designer and founder of the two channels I just spoke about, G'day Frank and G'day Design Life. Regan, what's happening? We'll call you Frank.
G'day, guys. How we doing?
Isn't it Reagan?
Reagan.
Yeah, it's Reagan. This is why I use Frank, guys. Because no one can get it fucking right.
All right. So what we're going to be doing, guys, if you guys want to ask these guys questions, all you have to do is type !Q in the chat, followed by your questions, and that will be pushed onto my iPad. We ran through Jacob at the start, Tom. So I've got a couple of questions to kick us off here. So let's start with number one. I guess we can just get straight into it if you guys are ready to go.
Let's go.
Let's do it.
All right, sweet. So we can go around one at a time. I did send these guys questions like a couple of hours ago, so they haven't had any time to prepare. We'll go like as I think Frank said, we'll do it Gary Vee style and go crazy. All right. So question number one is, how have you used a personal brand to leverage your creative career online? I'm actually going to start with Michael for this one. Take it away.
Awesome. All right. So I'm definitely not prepared for this, but let's give it our best shot. I think
that's
in terms of, I think first off, in terms of like personal brands, one thing we need to keep in mind is that there's a lot of hard work that is put into it, and it's sort of built upon like many years. So it's not something that just happens overnight and you can just utilize it right away. So I think in terms of like the personal brand, it has definitely helped me open up sort of bigger opportunities in terms of like a freelance career, but then also running an agency. Having a very good personal brand allows you to work with like bigger clients as well. So I think in terms of my career, I've been building it for over around like 10 years, the Mizco brand. And yeah, time after time, it helps me unlock sort of bigger opportunities moving forward.
That's awesome. All right. Who's up next? We'll jump to Frank. Give us an answer.
Yeah, before I start here, guys, I got to say, this is looking like your quintessential Aussie barbecue right now. If you know what I mean, like it's a total sausage fest. But wow. in terms of how I've, I guess, leveraged my own brand for my business, it's creating for me a lot of content that puts my name out there for people to see, be it potential clients or an audience of designers. Both have been used in some way, not for maniacal reasons or anything like that, but it's to elevate my brand or standing, to elevate who I am, to get noticed, kind of thing. So putting yourself in front of a camera like this right now is something to do, and it takes a bit to get to that point, I think, because it requires a whole heap of different things. It's not just your face, but it could be your branding, how you use your voice, how you communicate what it is and what you can do, and showing what you can do to your audience. And then if that attracts potential clients, fantastic. They know who you are, they know how to connect with you, and they know what they're going to get out of the experience of working with you. Similarly, with designers, you might stand out from the crowd because there are an absolute buttload of us, especially here on Instagram, and YouTube and Facebook and LinkedIn now as well. So it's kind of, I don't see that you need to be feeling like you need to one up yourself over other designers, but it's to stand out from the crowd. And because there's so many of us, and there always will be more and more as each year goes. It takes a lot of work to get to there and then stand out in your client's mind. So there's a lot to it, and we could talk about this, I guess, for hours. But for me, that's kind of my perspective. Is just putting yourself out there, as scary as it may bloody be. Getting your face out there, getting your voice out there, getting your personality out there is that kind of step to connect with people a lot better.
And you do that amazingly well, Frank, through all your content. You constantly got your face out there. And I think that's an extremely good exercise at actually building brand recognition and trust. So props to you for that. All right, so Jeremy, what are your thoughts on how you have used your personal brand to leverage your creative career?
Yeah, so for me, if I didn't start a personal brand, like I wouldn't be here where I am today. And I feel like expressing your character and your personality in a genuine way will really put you above majority of the market, because people do business with people. It's not about just a brand. And yes, you can have brands out there, but people do business with people. So at the end of the day, when you're stepping out of your comfort zone and talking and putting your face out there, you start to become top of mind, right? You start to become familiar, and people get used to your personality. And once someone gets used to your personality, then they're going to trust you better. They're going to like you. They're going to, want to talk to you and get to know you as a person, a friend. And as a result of that, like I've been able to get clients and, make connections, build relationships. And over the period of time, if you consistently do that and express yourself, then naturally personal branding will just, bring way more opportunities for you. Like one example I can think of is like my personal brand, in terms of like videos, like on YouTube and stuff like that. Just putting myself out there, just teaching others, and, having, obviously you've got like brand, personal branding in terms of like identity and stuff. Like that's all cool. You want to stand out and be different, as like Frank was saying. But just doing your videos out there, it's just amazing, man. And people get used to you, and it's just an opportunity to just help others. And ultimately, like, people come towards you, and especially like clients and stuff like that. It's just going to be amazing. So that's just sort of my thoughts on personal branding.
For sure. And obviously Jacob to finish it off in the new
Well,
setup.
first off, I just wanted to say thanks for organising this, Ryan.
Of course.
Connecting everyone. Yeah, putting everyone together. It's really awesome.
That's awesome. It's great to see everybody talking in chat. We've got around 80 people watching, which is exciting.
Awesome. So yeah, and just to piggyback on the connection and putting yourself out there, it's important to consider what personal branding is, and it's really about shaping your perception. So you have to know, before you put yourself out there, to know what you're trying to achieve and what your goal is. Otherwise, you may just be, I don't know, wasting time or talking to the wrong person, you know? So for me personally, I've always used my face as my name ever since I grew Just Creative a good decade ago. It's always been my website. My website has always had my face on it, and everywhere that I have my brand is my face and the same profile picture. So that's just one way to grow your recognition, like Frank does as well with his Instagram posts. He does it a lot, and he's got a whole catalog of photos, which is a good way to grow your brand, and then you can use that and capitalize on that to grow your business or whatever it is that you're going to do. So that's how I've built Just Creative, and it's been on the basis of that foundation of my personal brand.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So the second question I had for you guys before we jump into some live questions, which I've got a ton flooding in here, is that if you had to start again, where you knew no one and no one knew who you were, how would you differentiate yourself in your personal brands? So
Okay,
you're starting from scratch, no one knows who you are. How do you
Are you talking to me?
be different? Well, we can start back with Michael again.
Gotcha.
We'll go around in the circle.
All right, sounds good. So I think I 100% agree with how everyone sort of framed personal brand. It should be a true, like, sort of genuine reflection of yourself. So in terms of like what I would change, I wouldn't technically change anything, because I think I've been pretty true to myself, and like I've been pretty genuine, and I really represent who I am as a person. So I'm not really faking anything. But to another perspective from this is that what I've found as an actual challenge is that once your personal brand has grown and your business is growing and you've got a team that you need to start pushing forward, the biggest challenge is that you need to actually try to step back away from your personal brand and actually bring the team into the light. And that's a bit of a challenge and a hurdle that I've been sort of trying to solve and tackle over the last like 2-3 years. As the team comes to shine, like I need to give them the recognition. It's not about Mizco anymore. It's about sort of like Raw or like wherever the team is that's going to be. So I think in terms of building my personal brand, I think I'm happy with how it is, and it's very genuine. But I guess I wish I sort of would foresee that this challenge was going to sort of come across, and try to sort of take a step back away from my personal brand and let the team shine earlier on. So that's my take.
Gotcha. Awesome. Frank, you want to weigh in?
No, it wasn't so much weighing in. I'm just changing my camera setup here because I think it was absolute dog's breakfast what I had. So hopefully you can hear me better, see me better. So
all right, awesome.
Sorry,
all right, let's jump to Jeremy now. Jeremy, do you have a response?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, so I feel like I wouldn't change anything either. Like my personality is different, but if I were to start again, like from scratch, if I think of it like that, what I would do is I would truly try to define like what makes me different, like what's my value that I can add to the marketplace, and then I'll start to look out there, build relationships, see what other people are doing. And things like that. Obviously, like everyone can watch Gary Vee and like learn from people like that. But obviously, you don't want to copy. You want to try and imagine and adapt and experiment and create things. So I would be experimenting a lot. But one of the things to stand out is like I'll craft an identity, or like using bold colors, or like practical stuff, like you could use gradients or weird typography or cool layouts to stand out, because so many people look the same, and you don't want to look all the same, right? So to stand out, I'll come up with a cool identity. I would be building relationships and just overall being consistent, because I feel like no matter where you start or how you do it, even if you're like tweaking along the way, if you're consistent, you're going to grow anyway. You're going to build that audience. So I feel like having those core things, pillars, and being consistent over time, it doesn't matter where you start off, because along your journey you're going to tweak it and keep moving forward. So yeah, that's my thoughts.
For sure.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I think what you said about values, well, you didn't exactly say values, but the values of yourself should be portrayed out to the world, and who you want to be known for is what you should be putting out there. So if you, let's say this, to put this in an example to make it more tangible, if you want to be known as a very luxurious or premium brand designer, for example, then your feel and what you wear and how you communicate is going to be perhaps a little bit more elevated than someone like Frank, who's much more casual, who's tailored to the general design folk freelancers. So there's different ways of putting yourself out there, but still being true to yourself. But it still has to be based on your goals as well. You may not actually wear suits all the time, but if that's the image you want to portray, then perhaps that is the image that you focus on. So I think to bring it back to the question on what I would do when I'd start building, if I started from scratch, I'd actually outline what I want to do, what my goals were, and what values I had, and what I want to be known for before I actually go and execute on anything. So to make this actionable for people, you can write down what you want to be known for and some core values that you think are truthful to you, and start applying that, and then start building up your brand and your positioning in how you want to be seen and how you can actually stand out in the market. So this is how I would start again, just working on the plan first. So
that's awesome. Good. And Frank, how would you change, or would you change anything?
It's kind of one of those things, you kind of just get to a point where it becomes a point of doing more of the above. So if you feel comfortable with where you are, then and it's working, it's connecting with people, and it's just trying to find different ways to connect with more people realistically, or people that you maybe pivot towards, that you find that you enjoy connecting with more. If it's new clients or if it's a different type of designer. Like when I started my business, I didn't have a particular niche that I wanted to target. And for me, that niche has now become tech businesses, and still having small Aussie businesses there because of my location. So on the flip side though, having G'day Design Life, that is catering to connecting with Aussie design business owners to cheer them on, basically as a little cheerleader, giving them some knowledge that I wish I'd had when I was starting out as a design business owner. And it's tailoring that message to that particular individual with a tone that would connect with them. So if I knew that my user base or audience, let's say for G'day Design Life, was females that are 20 and they've just graduated. I know that's not, because my Instagram insights tell me that it's heavily skewing male. So I wouldn't create a brand that is tailored to that female. I would try and tailor it to, which I have, to a more masculine look. So it's all bold and bright and vibrant. I mean, hell, I'm wearing a yellow, hoodie here and red Crocs. So it's not doing things.
You didn't do that, did you?
It's not doing things subtle. And the reason for doing it is that you become more memorable in that respect. You look at people, sports stars like a Dennis Rodman that had the crazy, colorful hair. I think of anyone that stands out in celebrity life. That's it. Exactly. Jacob right there has the amazing head that looks like an absolute pickle. Maybe he's the guy that runs Design Pickle. Who knows?
I'll go back to myself.
I mean, from my perspective, it's just trying to be as memorable as possible, so you stay top of mind with somebody. And it's not to kind of go out of your way to be audaciously different. It's just doing what you enjoy and you like doing. If it's not for you to wear red Crocs like it isn't for most people, then that's not your deal. Be authentic. I think that's probably what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I think there's some value in authenticity, but I also see the other side of the fence
I
where you should be able to shape your perception as well. So that's kind of like if you want to be, or like if you're targeting bigger clients, then you may not actually want to have that side of things.
Exactly. I mean, I don't think I'd be in a position. Sorry, there's some technical difficulties going on with Ryan here.
We've been hacked.
He's been hacked by another.
How many reviews do they have? I'm thoroughly impressed.
But yeah, shaping that, I think that's a great point. Shaping that perception to be what it is you feel like it's required of your brand to stand out is something to be said. Like, my actual name isn't Frank, it's Reagan, and I use that because it's much more easy to remember and to recognize and spell and all the rest of it. But I am not this in terms of the way I communicate, I don't sound like this with my family and friends all that much. So it's elevating your personality to be a bit more memorable, stand out a bit more, and alter that perception to be someone that just sounds like an absolute Fruit Loop. That's just me though.
Alrighty, so I've had just a bunch of questions coming in. The first one that I want to jump to now, quick reminder to anyone in the chat, make sure you use !Q and then followed by your question, and then that way it will come up on my iPad here so we can see all your questions. The first one coming in, which is quite an interesting one, but someone wants to know, out of all of us, who would win in a race?
What type of race is that?
Well, I don't know.
100 meters or
I got this. Wow. I have no idea. I was just
What kind of race?
Let's say 100 meter sprint.
I'll learn that.
100%, man.
Jeremy's got legs. He has
just come back from the gym, yeah.
Man, I got hairy legs, man. Aerodynamics, bro.
Is that aerodynamic? I'm Asian, so I'm
just
pretty
go take
aerodynamic.
it.
I'm pretty smooth right here.
Hell, it's wonder.
All right, let's go on to a proper question now. What would you say is the fundamentals of personal branding? Let's start with Jeremy. What do you think are the fundamentals? Just on like some core things.
Yeah, sure. So once again, be you, like be yourself, be authentic. You know, and I'm sure we all pretty much mentioned that. So, being authentic, being yourself. You don't have to put a mask on or have a facade. Just be genuinely a good person. You know, be honest and transparent all the time. Because at the end of the day, you're going to be dealing with clients and with people, and you're going to be running a business. So you want to make sure that you're open, you're transparent, that you're going to be communicating professionally all the time with your language. You know, using positive words, and just, you know, being who you truly are. I think that's one of the core pillars of personal branding. And then obviously number 2, it would be consistent. So whether it's like your identity and all those things, then yeah, make sure it's consistent across all platforms. You know, we have so much technology these days. We have social media, so many platforms. We want to make sure that we're carrying across our message across all of the platforms, and we're keeping it the same and coherent, right? So I feel like once again, if you like go back to your core values of like who you are, having a big picture strategy, and then when you know go to roll out all those you know features and things that pertains to your brand, then it's going to be consistent and it's going to work really well. So I feel like yeah, those are a few key pillars that you need for personal branding.
Sure, awesome. Michael?
Yeah, I think Jeremy actually touched on a few, very like key points, and I 100% agree with everything he said. So I want to add on top of that one other element I think actually worked, and I think this is different for everyone. Like I guess everyone's take on personal brand and who they are, their personality, it ranges, right? So one method might not work for someone else, but at least for me, being genuine and actually vulnerable in a sense. So I run a newsletter, and it grew from 0 to go around 15,000 people on it. And that's over a span of like 4 years of running a newsletter. And that newsletter is pretty much dedicated to me just sharing all the pitfalls, all the failures, things I've struggled on, parts of like depression, when things get really stressful, like I express my anxieties through it. And I think that's actually when I connect with the most people. I get the most replies, because I think out there, when people build a personal brand, it's always the good side, right? You're always trying to be positive. You're always trying to express, like show like what you're doing well, like how things are growing, everything's feeling good. But in reality, I think everyone, no matter how famous you are, how many followers you have, everyone's struggling, and everyone's sort of like got their own personal struggles. And I feel like when I talk about my successes, people love it, and the people are inspired by it. But it's when I also show my vulnerable side, where I'm actually stressful, when things don't go well, that's when it really connects with people. And like Jeremy said, people don't technically connect with brands, they connect with the culture, the people behind it. If you're like a freelancer, it's the person behind that name. If it's a team, it's the people behind that brand or company. So I think being like showing glimpses of your failures as well is it's a great way to connect with people.
Yeah, so I think to summarize that is that being honest, transparent, and open, and being vulnerable. So I love that, how you said that. So it is coming back down to human, and that vulnerability is hard, but it does allow you to be more open, and people trust you more, and that connection, like you said, will be much stronger. So I think these are really great values.
That's fantastic. Does anyone else have anything to add to that question there?
Yeah, I'll add in just one thing is probably, or a couple of things, is with yourself, if you're not, well, for me personally, I changed my name to Frank. Well, not change my name, but I use the name Frank. So if you have a name potentially as a personal brand that is hard to remember or spell, it's quite a lengthy name maybe. There's a, I know you, Ryan, struggle with some names at the best of times when you were reading out last night some of the people that won the competitions.
Yeah.
If you have a name that is fairly easy to remember, it could be a brand name that you could rebrand yourself to and be known as that, which everyone assumed that my name was G'day Frank or Frank itself, when it was like, no, not actually, but I'm going to run with it though, because it's become part of who I am now. That's what people recognize me as, and say, G'day to, rather than Reagan or Regan. But the other parts, I made a bit of content about this, and it was, the few things were showing your face, having your voice put out there, either verbally or the way that you write, be it in a blog like Michael does in his newsletter, and Jacob does the same thing as well. And I know Jeremy does have a newsletter too. I need to get on that. But I've also said as well, making things memorable. The Crocs is one thing, but then also is having that online presence. So having a presence in the space where your audience can see you, to give that person something to connect with. So if they don't know who you are or where you are, you need to put yourself out there in many different places to try and connect with that person. So that's part of having that personal brand, and giving more to them. Like, you look at celebrities, they pay a price for the amount that they earn, in that they're on show 24 hours a day. And it kind of feels a little bit like that, a very small scale, but it's having to feel like you need to show who it is you are and be that authentic person time and time again, and show up for people, kind of thing, even though they're not there waiting with bated breath for you like a paparazzi would be hiding in the bushes. But for us, it's not to say that you have to do this, but to grow that audience, to grow that connection with somebody, it's showing up and being present. And it's a hard thing to do. It takes a hell of a lot of time. And I've seen a couple of questions in the comments that you guys are asking about that, is how much commitment does that take? It can take a hell of a lot of commitment. There's hours and hours put in on top of the work that we do that might bring in the bread for us in our own design businesses. And then marketing on top of that, it's a whole nother ball game. So don't feel like this is like the easy thing to do. It does take a fair bit if you want to make it worthwhile and memorable.
And that comes back to being consistent. And the fact that you change your name from Or to Frank, I think Mike Jander, he also gets more Jander. He gets called More. So
More, yeah.
Mr. More, and he'll bring that into his brand, and he makes it a part of his brand. And actual companies do the same thing. They get like Marks and Spencer, they may get known as M&S, and they get shortened, and then they adapt from that name and they use that new name because that's how the consumers see them. And we had Mike Jander and Tom Ross on our podcast, which is coming out soon. And we were talking about personal brand, and Mike had a good story that with Will Smith, and he met Will Smith on a beach, and he wanted to get a photo with him. So he took his boys to get the photo with him, and Will Smith stood up and shook all their hands, and they had a great brand experience with Will Smith. And just when you were talking about celebrities, that came to mind, because they do have to put on this front all the time. It may not necessarily be a front. Well, not for Will Smith. He just seems like a genuine stand-up guy, but he would get this every single day. And that brand experience, he has to put on every single day, every single interaction, because that person, if they have a bad experience, they'll pass it on to the next person. And that's how you get a bad reputation. So you have to be consistent with your message and have a good experience with everyone that you interact with. And that was a really strong, powerful story. That it was a good example of doing that, of being consistent and being a stand-up guy. to ensure that consistency. So
yeah, that's like the difference between an experience that you get with somebody. Like they always say, you don't want to meet your own, greatest idol or celebrity, because you might, regret it basically, and it'll just kill all your dreams. So it's a testament to those people that can turn it on in all times. And whether or not it's their personality or not, that's a whole other thing. And I think that's probably something that we're all learning here, is that you can jump on a camera really quick and do an Instagram story, and it's the highlight reel of what it is you're doing in your day. But when it comes to it, you could be going through some real shit at the same time, and it becomes this facade. But if you can show the crap side of things as well, you also build a greater sense of connection with that person, because they can empathize with you and ask if you're doing all right. And I've shared that kind of stuff, not ridiculous like stuff that's going on in my head or whatever, but or family stuff. I keep family and my brand quite separate, but yeah, it gives that bit more insight into who you are as a human. And if you are similar to that person that is connecting with you, you have shared values, shared interests, and all that kind of stuff. It creates such a better connection.
Totally. And I think it's interesting about the family side of things. Every person is going to have different opinions with how much they share in terms of family life, personal life. So you do have to take into consideration what is right for you. I know there's different stances, like a private. Mike Jander is much more open. He'll share his kids like out at baseball or whatever it is, and that kind of just shows like who he is and how open he is. But that's not to say it's not bad to hide it. I think privacy is a valid thing as well. So it's doing what's right to you, your family, your friends, and all of that. So definitely things to take into consideration.
Coming in is we like in-depth answers. Next question coming is how do you build trust and promote yourself as an expert? So who would like to kick us off?
I'll go for it. So I'd say number one, teach what you know. So that's one principle I've learned from ever since I started my personal brand. Even as soon as I finished college, like I learned about teaching what you know. So even if you don't this is the key. Even if you just know a little bit than somebody else, you can teach it, because there's millions of people and thousands of people around the world, and people are born every day, right? All those new people coming in the world don't know what you know, right? So you need to have this mindset of being able to teach what you know, no matter what level you're at, because people think experts because they teach, but it's actually the opposite. Because you're teaching, they see you as an expert, right? So you don't have to be a professor for 20 years or whatever to do it. So we need to have this positive mindset of like, yeah, I can teach what I know. I can share something I learned, a tool, an idea, a software that I use, your previous experiences. And I do recommend teaching from your experience, because it's going to come out a lot more truer, and it's not going to be sort of fake in a sense, but you'll be able to communicate it better because you've experienced it. So you have the emotions attached to it, you have the feelings and the mindset. So I feel like teaching what you know is one of the biggest ways to get your message out there, and so clients can see it, people can see your content, and it's just going to boost you up over the long run.
And you do it really well, man. Like you teach stuff very, very well, like prolifically well on Skillshare and on Instagram and on YouTube. Like that takes a buttload of effort.
Yeah.
I'm trying to do it at the moment, and it is hard.
Like it is.
It takes so much time.
100%.
So kudos.
Awesome. All right, who's jumping in next?
I'll back up that as well, because that's really been the backbone of my personal brand for a good decade plus. It's been teaching what I learned, and it's opened doors to so many different things. So at university, this was many years ago, I was sharing my design process from university and just being open with that process and where I was learning. And by that very nature, I got the interest of someone in New York, an agency over there, and that opened me a door to have a job over in New York City. And if I wasn't doing that, if I wasn't putting myself out there teaching like students, it wasn't even anyone else. It was just like my stuff. It was terrible, but I was in that process getting exposure, and people took notice on the other side of the world. So you never know where it will lead you. And you have to consider that there's always going to be someone ahead of you, someone behind you, and someone at your level. So when one teaches, to learn, that kind of thing.
Good quote, that one.
I love it.
But that's one thing, just quickly on something you said there, Jacob, was that you never know who's kind of watching. Someone might be lurking as a follower and never actually interact with any of your content or anything you put out there. You might be immensely helping that person until one day, 5 years later, they go, hey, I just want to say I've been watching you since you started. And it's like, really? I've never seen you before. And they say, I just want to thank you. And it takes that bit of courage for them to say something, because there's a tipping point where it's just like something clicked with them, maybe. I don't know. And you never to know. And that's why it's like that facade that you kind of say is keeping it positive, showing what you are learning. And
you know what? I have a story with that, because Matt Davies, my podcast partner, he actually knew me from over a decade ago because my site always outranked his site, and I didn't know this. He hated me because I didn't even know it, but he's like, yeah, I hated you back in the day, and then he let me know that like a couple of weeks ago. So
I'm not gonna lie, I actually stumbled across Jacob. Like I think when I first got into design, that was like over 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I think it was an article about logo design, I think it was. And
most likely.
I had no idea who you were, and it was only until like recently we're talking about Front Row that was like, oh, that's Jacob. Like it sort of like clicked in my head.
Yeah,
so,
well, that's because I had
well
the photo there, and it's the pink branding. It's been consistent for that long, so that's a clear sign that the branding does work, personal branding, if you have done it right, to keep things consistent over the years. So love to hear that.
No, 100%.
There was people that I went to uni with that I've connected with again here on Instagram, and they remember you being talked about in one of our uni lectures. I can't remember shit from my uni days, but they were like, yeah, Jacob was like shown in our lectures. I was like, yeah, I must have been asleep that time. I don't know. Sorry, man. But I was like, damn, that's interesting. So when we had our podcast together, two of us, some people said, oh, that's Jacob. I remember him from like a decade ago when we were at uni. I was like, holy shit.
Yeah, it's been a long time. But yeah, it's paid off for sure.
That's awesome. All right, next question coming in is, how do you differentiate your personal brand versus your company brand? Maybe Michael's a good one to kick this one off.
Well, the simplest thing is change the company name. So so that was I'm not being kidding. So I was running Mizco Media, and we were a team of like 10. We had product managers, we had a design. We're primarily a UX focused, so we do a lot of. We're very data driven and very results driven. Time after time, whenever I was talking to clients, we have government clients, and then also like fairly like well funded startups as well. They know of the company through sort of like previous work that we've done for like other enterprises, and everyone sort of everyone knew that I was Mizco, and I just constantly had to sort of like tell them like, no, the team is they've been doing like really good work. Like the work that you're actually referring to was actually done by them. It was just this constant. Like I just had to repeat myself over and over again, mainly because the name of the company was called Mizco Media. So then I was going through a bit of like a struggle with whether I should do like a rebrand or like change the name. I didn't know what to do with it. But I actually decided to wind Mizco Media down, and then I just co-founded Raw Studio with a good buddy of mine who's also in the UX field, and that has helped a little bit. But I still think there are clients who have like they sort of like reach out because of the work that we've done before. But it has been easier to sort of give like a collective effort and sort of like frame it as Raw did that previous piece of work. So I think that is one big piece. So changing the name. Also, something that we do within our team is like no one actually refers to the client as like I when they do the work. It's always we. That's something that starts top down. And whenever someone joins and I hear them say I did this, I sort of like just like let them know like it's always we. Because even if you executed, you've lent on another designer for some bouncing ideas. You lent on like my co-founder for some branding like insights. You've led on me for some strategy. So it's always like we. And as much as we can, we always just push the team. And also like whenever we have a touch point with the client, we always have the entire team there. Everyone that worked on it will always be present in that room, because you don't want to sort of just put the spotlight on one person. We always recognize the people who have done the work. So let's say we're doing, I don't know, like I say, we're doing like an app, and there was some development done. There was a strategic piece done. Starting from the top, I'll always note and refer to the specific person's name if it was their idea. I'll never sort of like try to just take ownership of everything. So I'll say, oh, Philippe had a really good idea about doing this. Danny had some good ideas about this, and it's always collective. So that's how we sort of like manage the whole company brand moving forward.
That's awesome. Does anyone else have anything to weigh in on that one?
Well, I haven't actually built to go on the other side of the fence. I have my brand as my business and my personal brand, so it's kind of joint together. So there are different methods, so you have to consider what is right for you. There's the pros of having it as one is that it's just one. You have to deal with one. The con of that is that you can't in the future sell it. It's always your personal brand and the business you can't sell if you ever do want to sell it. So you have to figure out you have to really figure that out in the beginning.
That's onto 100% with Jacob on that. Is that was one of the main sort of reasons why I sort of rebranded as well, because I just don't know what's going to happen in the future. So having that name tied to myself, it just doesn't make sense. All the SEO is coming to my personal portfolio. There's just too many sort of complications when it comes to that.
Yeah, and I'm personally seeing like I'm a little bit stuck in that realm because I can't actually do anything else. Like I have my creative services, then I have a community, and my personal brand all wrapped up in one, which is nice for managing it, but there's also limitations on it. So I can't really separate my services and the community because it's all one at the moment. So I'm a little stuck, but there's no tips on what's right for you, but I just want you to realize what the pros and cons are.
That's awesome. Another question coming in here. How would you go about building a personal brand for someone who doesn't like social media? Frank, we might start with you on this one. Might be a tough one.
No, it's not tough. If you're not a fan of social media, it's going to be harder because you're going to be relying on more traditional media. And social media is your Facebook, your Instagram, TikTok, if you're able to access it anymore, and things like YouTube and Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat. If you're not a fan of that, you can still create a personal brand from your website. You can have a blog on there. You can create a presence, which is probably, I'm guessing, what Jacob did 10 years ago before, social media was really a thing to connect with other designers. And it might be something that's more smaller scale. I think that's the beauty of social media, is that you can do this at scale to connect with as many people as possible. So if you're not a fan of it, it's going to be a uphill battle. Let's not beat around the bush there. So it's going to require you to get a bit out of your comfort zone. I think the long and short of it is that social media at the moment is here to stay. It will change over time, and it's about adapting to it. But if you're going to create a personal brand without that social standing, because we're all there, we're all present, you can share so many ideas freely, openly, and accessibly, then it's going to be a slog without it. It could be done. It's not to say it can't be done, but it's going to probably take you longer to do so.
Yeah, and the other side of it, like there's so many different agencies out there that don't even have a social media presence, but they're super successful. Yeah. So you don't need it. And there's also other options, So podcasts, you don't need to show your face. I don't even like talking, and my wife laughs at me because I've started a podcast and I'm on video doing group coaching now. It's just not me, but I put myself out there. I got out of my comfort zone and I'm doing it. Like I listened back to the first podcast, and like even now, like I'm not super comfortable, but I'm learning and getting more comfortable with it. So there's a bit of vulnerability to that as well, and getting out of your comfort zone. So it just depends on what your goals are with social media, because at the end of the day, the reason people are on social media is for a reason. Is it to get clients? Is it to drive traffic? Is it to boost your exposure? Whatever it is, you have to make sure it's aligned with your goals.
Yeah. Sure. Or even networking, like networking events and things like that. You can still create a personal brand by networking. And that's what a lot of people do in the media world, like having worked in television for many years. That's how people connected with each other. It was through networking events and social gatherings and things like that to make a name for themselves with obviously the work that you do, that also becomes part of your, personal brand too as a designer. So there's a lot of elements to it that are outside of social media. So it's not the be all and end all, let's say.
For sure. Is there anyone else that wants to contribute to that?
Yeah, I think I was like, who joined the chat?
Random. Might delete later.
I think it's important to sort of just have a think about like why you're not open to social media, because social media is really just a channel. Like whether you do it on blogs, podcasts, Twitter, YouTube, whatever it is, it's really just another channel for you to communicate with people abroad. That's really it, unless you're very sensitive about privacy and whatnot. But to be honest, having a website, someone else is hosting all your data. Like it's like there is always a bit of sensitivity in terms of privacy, and like your data, as long as you're online, it doesn't matter if it's on social media, it's always going to be accessible by anyone out there. So I think you sort of need to maybe just like, hey, have a think about like why you're not okay with social media, and just see it from that angle, because I think for us, we really just see it as another channel, another gateway to accessing a larger audience, because I guess we want to make a bigger impact, and we could be mentoring people locally, but we sort of see the value in sort of like spreading the word, reaching as many people as we can, and we're not held back by the dark side of social media, and all that. So
yeah, you got to weigh out the pros and the cons.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. All right, this one's more a Australian specific one, but it's for everyone. Doesn't matter really where you'd be in the world. But how have you seen this like isolation period where everybody's working from home? Have you seen it as an opportunity or a threat? And how have you adapted your either business or personal brand because of that?
Okay.
I'll give it a crack. So, not gonna lie, the first month was absolute chaos. Stressed. We like the place that where we had our office. The company that we were renting from went into administration, so we got kicked out of our own office. Like it was absolute chaos for the first like 3 months. But I think when things sort of started to settle, we sort of just said, you know what, like we can dwell on this, we can stress, we can just keep thinking about like what could happen, or we could just say, you know what, let's get just heads down and just keep pushing forward, and that's what we've done. And now we recently just made 2 new hires, and now we're looking to make another 3 new hires. I think it's really perception. Like, is the glass half full or is it half empty? I mean, I think it's natural and it's very okay for us to all get a little bit scared and a little bit anxious at the start, but you just gotta change your perception and keep moving forward and hope for the best.
Yeah. So for me personally, I think everyone was a little worried in the beginning. The first month or so, no one knew what was happening. Like no one. It's never been done before this whole thing. So it was just a waiting game to see how things would play out. But you did have to pivot if you were affected. And yes, I had jobs lined up and they just got totally canned because they had construction planned and the construction couldn't go ahead, and the inquiries just stopped, for about a month, nothing really, because everyone was scared. They didn't know what was happening and no one's ready to spend money in that volatile market. So I also saw I do a lot of affiliate marketing with Amazon, and I saw Amazon spike because everyone's at home buying shit. And there's pros and cons of both. So I've lost clients, but I also got Amazon affiliate revenue. But I had the platform in place to have that buffer room if for situations like this to happen. So if you're totally reliant on one single source of income, it's a good sign that you should consider other options to help you go through that roller coaster a little bit easier, more smoothly, so you don't have those peaks and troughs, and you have a more steady baseline to work with. So I guess we're getting into the idea of passive income or having other revenue streams, whether it's like coaching. I'm just talking about myself here, but coaching, passive courses, or working with SEO, or whatever it may be. There's so many different things out there to earn revenue on the side. But if you have those things in place, that will really help remedy that kind of situation when it comes up again.
I'll add to that as well. Similar to Jacob, like to me, I saw it as an opportunity to double down because everyone's at home now. So we have an opportunity to create more content, right? Yes, you might slow down on clients, but it was actually the opposite for me, which was crazy. So like I started getting more clients. I actually started getting more views to my courses and my YouTube channel. So because everyone's at home watching online, doing courses, they're not going to uni, they're not going to work or whatever the first few months. It's a bit chilled now in Sydney. But for me, I saw everything actually just started increasing. So for me, it's an opportunity to be like, okay, because people at home, they're watching more. Now's the time to double down on like video content, especially for like YouTube and stuff like that, because that type of stuff can be evergreen. And if you do it right, you can have a video on that platform or on your own platform that's going to be there forever. And it's always going to be generating views and income. And I truly believe that passive income is another good way to help in those times of when your clients dip. Like Jacob was saying, I think that's super great. So it's good to diversify. You don't want to just have one. It's good to have clients, but you want to do, you want to do products or online courses or, offer other services, whether it be consulting as well or coaching. Things like that will help generate that income in these times. But it's been an interesting ride.
Cool. And you guys are kind of into this second question I actually had here, which was, are you creating multiple income streams? And if so, what are they? So I know that Jeremy and Jacob, you've touched a little bit on that. Maybe we can go through Michael and Frank now on creating multiple income streams. And if you've got some, what are some of those? Maybe you can share some to give some folks at home some ideas.
I'll let Frank go first.
Yeah, okay.
It's figurative, like
What a gentleman. For me, I having only run a business now for exactly 2 years, that period of 2 years has been to establish my business, to get a sort of footing of getting my rates to where I want them to be and creating a brand around my business. So now it's pivoting into creating some content that is monetized. If it can be. So I created all these crazy GIFs on Instagram, Mike Jander style, and I'm making a course that's showing you how to do that. Like it's really simple. I could do it in an IGTV video. It's that quick and simple, but you turn something like that, a bit of a knowledge that someone doesn't know how to do, and make that into a little mini course for Skillshare. So it's accessible for people is a great idea. So that's something that I'll be doing at some stage soon once I get around to it. But also having a website that I'm starting now is exactly what Jacob's been doing for years now, is having, if it's affiliate links, if it's having links to books and resources and courses and things like that to drum up some attention to that site, and having a newsletter that could be sponsored. It could be having a podcast that's sponsored. So I have 2 podcasts at the point where it gets to a level where maybe it gets some better listens or views, that could be monetized. Not to say I really want it to, but there's opportunities and all these things. So if you're creating and diversifying your media of how you are getting yourself out there are many different ways you can do it. It's whether or not you feel comfortable doing it, and that you have the time to execute on it if it's something you're interested in doing. So at the moment, it's a work in progress, let's say that.
Awesome. All right, Marco, you want to finish
Yeah,
this off
cool.
with an answer?
So yeah, for us, we have explored different products, like digital products. We also run like a UI inspiration website called uigarage.net. Gets like around 30,000 hits like a month. So we're looking to monetize that as well on the side. But since we're quite service, like we're a service provider, so we work with quite large clients. We've somewhat tried to diversify our services as well. So we're bringing sort of front-end development and engineering capabilities into the company now. So we're about to hire a front-end, and also in terms of our client base, we're trying to diversify them as well. So have more large companies and enterprises as our client base, and sort of trying to bring them on more, because they've definitely got backing. They're definitely not going to slow down. That they've got priorities that they need to hit, and they're sort of well funded as well. So that sort of helps us keep afloat. with everything that's going on.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I could talk about this for forever because I have so many different.
Jacob's the king.
Prolific bloke.
But I want to keep this actionable for people. Amazon is the easiest one to get started on. You literally can start earning your first buck within 5 minutes. That's how easy it is. So it's called Amazon Associates. If you Google Amazon Associates, you can sign up for free and you get an account with them. And once you've got the account, once you're logged in, at the top of any Amazon page, you'll have a little bar at the top and you can click to get a link, and that's an affiliate link. And then you use that link wherever you want to share. Let's say a book. Let's say share your favorite book. I love this book. I recommend it. Someone will buy it if you share it on Facebook or Twitter or anything. It's a personal recommendation, and from that you've made your first buck. Because you've personally recommended it. Someone else will be interested in it, and maybe you give a little review. And that's affiliate marketing. And especially when it comes from someone that you trust. That's how this works, and then you just do this on scale. You do this. You work with different partners, and then you could use your email newsletter, use SEO, and you can get this affiliate link in front of more people. So this is what I've been focusing on the past few years, but more heavily focused on SEO. So when people are looking for, let's say, best laptops for designers, for example, they can type that into Google, and then the article come up, and that's like a hot lead. So this is just one example, affiliate marketing, but then there's courses, there's ads on a site. So just like in a sidebar, there's what else is that? You can sell other people's stuff. You can work with partners and sell their courses. So don't just limit it to what you create, because creating your own courses is a ton of work. Like anyone here will back me up on that, because I haven't even done it, but I promote other people's courses, and I know how much work is involved with them. So don't be afraid to partner and to use affiliate marketing to get some passive income. But it doesn't have to be big. You can have like ebooks. You could have some stock graphics that you haven't used or from an old project and repurpose them.
Yep.
And once you have a store online or someone to work with, then you have this passive income that's going to keep you afloat. So I will leave it there, because otherwise I'll go on forever. But wait, I should have been doing this while I was talking.
Raining that cash.
I'm sure Jacob could have been using real cash with all that marketing.
Amazon money.
It's in the house that's behind him in the pool that's to the left.
It's me and Jeff over there.
All right. Next question. This one's a fairly rapid fire one. Is if you could only use one social media platform, what would you use?
That was a good question.
Let's go around one at a time. We'll start with Michael.
Oh, I would say I'm really biased, because I guess like I'm more if it's for personal, I would say Twitter.
Yeah.
But if it's for company, I would say LinkedIn.
Yeah. Smart move. Frank.
Yeah, I'd agree with Michael there. With if it was for business only and to connect with business owners, B2B stuff, it would be LinkedIn as well. But Instagram's way too much fun not to say that as well. So I think that's probably my top pick, because it's where I am most of the time. But then it's filtered, like all that content is then filtered out everywhere else. So yeah.
Interesting.
Mine would be, I don't know if this qualifies, but an email list, my own personal email list. So I think that's more valuable than any social media platform. And your own website and your own platform is infinitely more valuable than any social media platform out there. So that would be my answer.
I'll probably say MySpace. I'm just kidding.
I was waiting for it.
Just kidding. I'd probably say YouTube. I just feel like, I enjoy videos, and I feel like I've gotten clients from YouTube, which is pretty cool. So I just feel like, it's just nice. You can build an audience and have videos, and you can create whatever type of content. And you get paid monthly from Google. So that's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Nice.
Another question coming in. The chat's just being flooded with questions. How do you manage your time and managing multiple different things at once? So obviously business operations, servicing clients. Do you guys, and we'll go around in a circle, do you guys have any strategies about actually project management and planning your day? So we'll go the other way. We'll go Regan first. Reagan.
Who's Regan? Yeah, for me, I did a bit of content about this a while back because I saw Casey Neistat do this, and basically it was like mapping out your day in terms of hourly block. And for me, the first few hours of the day when I wake up with my son, it's checking Instagram and replying to DMs and messages and that kind of stuff. Then it gets into starting work at 9, between 9 and 10. It's me doing admin work, replying to emails, doing accountancy stuff, the really boring kind of stuff of running a business. And then it gets into client work then until 4, 5 o'clock. And if there's any lulls in that period, it might be either checking socials or uploading some content, maybe some stories, that kind of stuff. It's then family time, putting my son to bed, and then from 7:30 till 10ish, maybe 11, it's creating more content or making improving my websites or whatever. So it's breaking up my day in that way, and things change here and there, but that's kind of like the general gist of how I get all this stuff done. And whereas you might be at home wanting to just relax and do Netflix and chill, then so be it. Like that's totally your thing. If you're motivated and you can't sit still, like I feel like I can't at the moment, I'm always doing something. So yeah, you kind of need to do something to make some money realistically in your business. So everything contributes. If it doesn't feel like it isn't at the moment, it will compound, let's say.
That's awesome. Jacob?
Yeah, I think that the key word there is compounding. Like the foundation, building that foundation is key, especially in the beginning. If you don't have that to stand on, that compounding was going to take a long time. So you do have to do that. So I already forgot the question. What was the question?
Tips for like managing your day, tracking your time.
Managing the day. Yes, comes up all the time in our coaching calls. And once I ask them what they're doing, the biggest thing is that they have too much going on. They're trying to do too much and they're losing focus. So you have to figure out what your plan is, what you're trying to achieve, having a vision, so you know where you're going. Otherwise, you just get distracted. You get these shiny objects everywhere and you go after them and you lose focus. And if you don't have a clear focus, then you're going to get lost. So what we generally advise is to these are simple tips, but having a to-do list, like so simple. Write down your big goals, break it down into projects. So you have one big goal that you get into, and then you have your projects, and you can work towards these projects, but you're still going towards that goal. But you have to eliminate things. You have to put things further down the list to know what you're going to focus on. So for me personally, I have a whiteboard here, and it has different categories on it. And so I can always see what is happening and what is in order. I have like a today list, and I have like other projects. So it's important to have things written down in order with projects and goals. So that would be my point of view.
That's awesome. Jeremy?
Yeah, so for me, I'm using Notion. I've been loving Notion recently, just the amount of workspaces. And I like what Jacob said, how he uses a to-do list. I feel like writing down your 3 most important tasks of the day should be set for the week. And what I typically do now is I plan my week on Sunday night. So then I plan each important task I have to do for the day, right? So typically like Mondays and Fridays, I'll make them my content days. And then during the week, if I have clients and I'm doing client work, and if I'm not, then I'm working, on my website or product or a new course, or whatever it is that I'm working on. But yeah, overall, like, to be honest, you work long hours. Like I find myself working all day. Obviously I believe in balance. I go to the gym, which is good. On the weekends, I hang with family. Sometimes we stay home and chill, but I got a big family, lots of cousins, you know how it is. And sometimes at night, like, I'm not strict, you got to be like water, like free flowing, right? So sometimes I might chill with my wife and just watch movies or, whatever. But like having those goals at the start of the day and planning it in your note-taking app like Notion is really going to help you out because okay, I got to get this done to make progress in my business. And if you're an analog type of guy, I know there's a cool new product that Ugmonk's bringing out where you can actually, it's like a little, it's got cards and you can like plan your day like by writing it with a pencil, and you can have it right in front of your keyboard or your desk. So you're literally like looking at it. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, that's sort of how I plan my day. Do the work, most important tasks in the morning, and then throughout the day, have lunch and go to the gym, and then just make sure I'm getting all the tasks done. And then I usually go for like walks as well, like for 20 minutes to get some sun. You need that vitamin D, some fresh air to clear my mind if I'm, got too much on. But yeah, typically that's how I manage it.
Yeah, I love that you said the exercise and taking breaks, because exercise keeps your mind healthy and you can work smarter and more, or you can work harder
Yeah.
as well. And the breaks as well, like just
Mm.
having a breaks is super helpful.
Yeah.
I was going to recommend this book as well. It's called High Performance Habits. It's by
Brandon.
Brendan. But yeah, so that's another one if you want to learn about habits. We haven't actually talked about habits, but habits are actually very helpful to perform at a high level. So you get in the motion of doing things.
Yeah.
So.
Do you have a Amazon link for that one, Jacob?
Yeah. Go on.
Look at the chat. We might steal that. There we go.
Good call. Good call, Ryan.
And Michael, finish it off.
I love the fact that Jeremy quoted good old Bruce Lee. I was waiting for you to. You're like, what the? Okay. I think no, everyone covered up everything. I think for me, I do have a little hack. And it's if you're on a MacBook, what I do, I generally do plan the day before, because so much stuff happens during the week. What I find is like the night before, I will block out time in the calendar app, and that's linked to my Google account. So why I do that is because then people can't book me in, like people can't, like my team members can't book me into a meeting. But it also gives me a notification as if it's like a meeting that's happening. So I should be working on this, and it prompts me. It like breaks me out from my workflow. And when you look back, it also gives me the ability, which I generally do, is I can assess how much time am I focusing on admin, like accounting and like all that boring stuff. How much time am I spending on actual like tangible work, and like strong outputs like for the company as well. So when you map things out on your calendar, like you drag it and you block it out, yeah, over time you'll be able to reflect and actually see like where do you need to, if I'm spending too much time on like writing up proposals, like do we need to hire someone for that, right? So it's a good way to just to do little retros on yourself as well.
That's awesome. We have time for one more question, and Jacob's already kind of jumped the gun a little bit on it. The question is simply, do you guys have any book recommendations? Whether it be design related, business related, personal brand related, like what are some like books that have really helped you guys in your career, if there are any?
Okay. So the first one that came to mind was Story Brand by Donald Miller. I just love that book. Really short and, well, not short. Well, it is short, but it's to the point, and it really helps you think about how to sell. Basically the premise of it is that you're the guide when you're selling your services. You're the guide. The customer's the hero, and you're guiding them from A to B. So you're kind of removing yourself from the picture. You're not the star. You're just helping them get to A to B. And the book actually teaches you how to do that and message with clarity. So I think it's a really powerful book.
That's awesome. Who else has a book recommendation?
Yeah, I'll go. Two books I have in mind. One is The E-Myth, which is about creating systems in your business, so that if you did want to walk away from your business, I just found it quite tremendously interesting. I may never use half of those things that he talks about in that book. I think it's Michael E. Gerber is the author. But I just found it kind of a very interesting way to approach your business systematically to make it less stressful and feel like you have a hold on your business. The other one, which I found really interesting, was Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss, who is a former FBI negotiator, and using negotiation and understanding people more to not take advantage of the situation of that relationship, but to understand how people. Sorry, if you can hear some cockatoos in the background.
That's so bloody loud.
It's a real Aussie podcast.
Totally.
And some of the stories are fascinating, but how it then applies into business is equally fascinating. So that'd be my two. If you wanted to add one more, would be Seth Godin's This Is Marketing, because if you don't get marketing, that's like a little dictionary of marketing.
Cool. Michael?
Yeah, I've actually got a few. So I think in terms of design, habit forming products, building habit forming products by something, forgot his last name. But really good book. Definitely, it's my highly recommended design book for anyone that wants to get into the UI UX space. I love like sort of like startups and business as well. That's like a lot of the our clients are in that space as well. So 0 to 1 is a really good sort of mindset shifting perspective book in terms of like how you sort of go from 0 to 1 in building businesses, like going from just building something that is competing, that has competitors, to building something that is so great that you have no competitors in the landscape. So just being very forward thinking. So that's one. And right now I'm reading The Ride of a Lifetime. So it's about Rob Iger. He's the former CEO of Disney, and it's his journey and his struggles, and like his sort of like process of how he went from working for ABC, and then ABC being acquired by Disney, all the way through to how he worked his way up to becoming CEO. And I think that is a stellar read. So
That's awesome.
highly recommend it.
I got a few more.
Go for it. Amazon.
So like crazy.
Library too.
Yeah, this is a good one.
Links in
So
chat.
that's by Sabri Subi. He's an Aussie bloke. So anyone, yeah. If you like strategy, and this is more like this is from Marty Newmeyer. It's called Scramble. It's more like a business thriller, which is, it's basically talking about strategy, but more of in a story form. Brand Gap is a classic. It's about branding and strategy. The E-Myth, as Frank said. And if you're into coaching or leading, this is a really good one. It's called The Coaching Habit. So it's good. It's good.
That's awesome.
But it teaches you how to ask the right questions and not always give advice all the time. And it helps you lead better. So there are a few ones, a few of mine.
And yeah, I'll add a couple as well. I think back to the habit thing, Atomic Habits by James Clear. That's the best habit book you'll get. It's a more like modern version, and it's really good. I would also suggest Branding in 1.5 Steps by Michael. I'm not sure his last name. And Aaron Draplin's book, Pretty Much Everything, more creative, but I love his like rawness and playfulness. We need some of that designy stuff. And also Identity Design by David Airy. He's from the UK. Gives some practical tips and shows their brand identity stuff. So yeah, that's more of the designy type of things.
That's awesome. All right, so we're out of time now for our live Q&A questions. Thank you to all you guys for joining us. We'll go around one at a time. Give yourself a bit of a plug. Tell people where they can find you. We'll start with Michael up the top left there. Where can people find you?
Sweet. So if you want to, the easiest way is actually just to punch in Mizko, so Mizko into Google, and you're going to find everything about me. So like Twitter, website, LinkedIn, everything's on there. If you want to learn more about like sort of the company that I've co-founded, it's raw.studio. And we're going through a bit of a rebrand right now. So yeah, exciting times.
That's super exciting. Jeremy.
Yeah, so you can find me at the Jeremy Mirror on Instagram and Twitter. If you type my name in on YouTube and LinkedIn, Jeremy Mirror, you'll most likely find me. You can also find some resources and cool things at jeremymirror.com. I'm also on Skillshare, so you can just type my name in, you'll find me there. But yeah, that's me.
Awesome. Frank?
You can find me on Instagram at either G'day Frank or G'day Design Life, or on g'dayfrank.com or g'daydesignlife.com. Also have a podcast, Two Red Chairs, which Jacob's been on. I need to get the rest of you. Actually, Ryan's been on as well.
Yeah.
The rest of you guys on as well for that. It's a design podcast. I've had even the guy that made the logo for Apple. That was pretty cool. But that's called Two Red Chairs, if you want to check that out. And that's me. You'll see this yellow jumper on G'day Design Life.
and the Crocs. But definitely not least. Jacob.
Yeah, so you can find me at justcreative.com. There is a ton of freebies you can download on there with branding and design resources, all free, just in exchange for your email address. So I can send you lots of good stuff.
Affiliate links.
Amazon.
Yeah, lots of Amazon stuff. But yeah, seriously, there's a lot of free stuff in there. You can also listen to my podcast with Matt Davies, which is focused on branding and strategy, which is called Just Branding, which you can find on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and all the major platforms. But you'll find all my social links at Just Creative. So thanks again, Ryan.
Of course. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Everyone in chat, there's been about 100 people throughout the entire live stream, which is awesome. Thank you for answering all your questions. Just to finish up, I just want to run through our schedule with everyone watching just for the next few sessions. So if we can get that up on screen, here we go. So coming up very soon, in a couple of hours time with Steph from Let's Talk Branding. He's got a really awesome workshop about diving deep into brand strategy. And I actually put out a survey to our audience a couple of days ago, and that's got some feedback and stuff from that. Then we've got a Q&A panel with a bunch of content creators later on tonight for our time, or 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. GMT. That's got people like Dave Tillas, Lung, and just a bunch of other people. I think we got like 6 or 7 other people. And then just after that, we've got, or a little bit later, longer after that, we've got a workshop with Dane Walker, as well as this, plus a multiple range of mentoring sessions upcoming overnight for us, but probably during the day for most of you watching. So that's basically it from me. I just want to run through a couple other things before I jump off. Again, massive, huge thanks to our sponsors, Adobe XD and Holobrief. You've been seeing their banner ads appear, so go check them out in the links in the description. If you haven't already, I've said this a million times, go join the Slack community. That's where everyone is. That's where attendees are collaborating with one another. That's where you can get exclusive updates and reminders every time we go live, as well as our virtual expo. And if you want to get the VIP pass to rewatch this session, or maybe you missed a session and you want to rewatch that, the VIP pass allows you to do that, as well as you get access to all our great mentoring and networking sessions, and there's a ton more goodies. But apart from that, if you guys have been taking photos, videos, notes, whatever, make sure to share them. Make sure to use hashtag Frontrow2020 and tag us at PitchProof. We love to see them. And then lastly, I have to thank our amazing team behind the scenes. We've got Tom Bouquet, Matt Hayward, Ben Martin, Billy Wilson, Courtney Zudema, Lawrence Digital for the animations, and Drop Music Branding for the amazing audio branding that you see here on Front Row. That's it from me. I'll see you guys very soon. Have a good one. Stay safe.
Silent now, we don't say a word. We're just looking at each other. Tears in our eyes from the words we said. Yeah, it kinda broke my heart. Loving you is not so goddamn easy as you think. I'm trying my best to hold on, but I feel myself giving. You know that we shouldn't keep it up like this. We hurt each other's feelings on and on. I don't wanna change who you are. The things you say is always one step too far. But I know that I've played my part. I'm hurting you as well. I guess that we should say we're sorry. Say we're sorry. Say we're sorry. I guess that we should say we're sorry. Say we're sorry. Say we're sorry. it's worth. I'll try to change. We can't fix our broken hearts. Loving me is not so goddamn easy as I think. You try your best to hold up, but I see you giving in. You know that we shouldn't keep it up like this. We hurt each other's feelings on and on.